Hello everybody and welcome back to Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker, and today it's all about Ketramose, the New Dawn. This is a commander that is maybe the most popular, or expensive I should say, commander from the set so far. So let's dive into Ketramose and see how this commander works. Ketramose, the New Dawn, 1 white and black, legendary creature, god, menace, lifelink, indestructible. Ketramose can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So Ketramose here has a lot of great abilities. Obviously, a 3 mana menace, lifelink, indestructible 4/4 is good, but we need to exile 7 cards, which is actually a lot easier than you think. This deck is going to revolve around all the main categories. Normally, I'd like to split up into 2 or 3, but there are so many great exile effects into every category, I think it's worthwhile talking about each of them individually to kind of get an idea of just how good this deck is. So starting out with artifacts, we have Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Ghost Vacuum, and Sword of Hearth and Home. Agatha's Soul Cauldron is 2 legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though we're mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter on them have all activated abilities of creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. We do have some creatures with activated abilities, but we're more or less looking for that exile effect, and we can then pump up our creatures as well, which is just great. Ghost Vacuum for a single mana artifact. Tap it to exile target card from a graveyard. 6 and tap, sack Ghost Vacuum. Put each creature card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control with a flying counter on it. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery. This also will just help us turn after turn exile target cards from our graveyard, which can be very good. And then Sword of Hearth and Home, 3 generic artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and white. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own, then search your library for a basic. Put both those cards onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle. Not only are we going to get triggers from Ketramose, we're also going to be ramping, which in these colors can be a little difficult, so it's definitely worth having in our deck. The other great exile artifacts are Conjurer's Closet, Mimic Vat, Relic of Progenitus, and Scrambling Claws. Now moving on to creatures, some of my favorite exile creatures with some new and super old ones are Aerial Extortionist, Emperor of Bones, and Obzet Ghost Council. So Aerial Extortionist, 3 white creature, bird soldier, flying. When it enters or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent for as long as that card remains in exile. Its owner may cast it. Whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you draw a card. What a great way to draw additional cards. This would be a great bounce effect, like with Sword of Hearth and Home. It's definitely worth including in this deck. Emperor of Bones, 1 in a black creature skeleton noble. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Then you may pay 1 in a black to adapt 2. Whenever 1 or more +++ counters are put on Emperor of Bones, put a creature card exiled with Emperor of Bones onto the battlefield under your control with a finality counter on it. It gains haste, sack it at the beginning of the next end step. This pairs super nicely with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, putting additional counters on it and letting us put things onto the battlefield. And then Obzet Ghost Council, 1 white black legendary creature, Spirit Advisor. When this enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile it. If you do, return to the battlefield under its owner's control. At the beginning of the next upkeep, it has haste. A great way to just exile something every turn, gaining life, draining our opponents, and then gaining even more life. Some of the other great exile creatures are Abdel, Adrin, Goran's Ward, Abyssal Harvester, Bogwart Trawler, Kala's Blood Mage, Charming Prince, Dothi Voidwalker, Veladar Guardian, Fiend Hunter, Flickerwisp, Gilrayan, Dundane Protector, Leanin Relic Warder, Lion Sash, Marrow Bonar, Philia Exuberant Shepherd, Restoration Angel, Sea-Nu Keen-Eyed Protector, Skyclave Apparition, Solitude, and Withered Wretch. Now moving into enchantments, we have Planar Void, Rest in Peace, and Teleportation Circle. Planar Void and Rest in Peace are very similar cards. Planar Void, a single black enchantment. When a card is put into a graveyard, remove that card from the game, or exile it in today's text. But Rest in Peace, 1 white enchantment. When Rest in Peace enters, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. This keeps our opponents from getting death triggers from tokens, which can be a very powerful effect, but also now lets us draw cards. And then Teleportation Circle, 3 and a white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. A great blink effect that is going to exile and then bring something back. Some other cool cards are just Grasp of Fate and Journey to Nowhere. Some great exile instants, which I had to cut a bunch of them because there's just too many, are Cling to Dust, Despark, and Ephemerate. Obviously, there's lots of good ones like Path to Exile and Swords of Plowshares we'll talk about in a second, but Cling to Dust, single black instant, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life, otherwise draw a card, and you can escape it for 3 and a black, exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. If you need something to do in the late game and you have a ton of cards in the bin, this might be just what you need. Despark, white and a black instant, exile target permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Still very powerful. And then Ephemerate, another blink effect for a single white instant, exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Rebound, if you would cast a spell from your hand, you get to exile it as it resolves another card you're exiling. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. Looking at those other exile instants, we have Anguished Unmaking, Cloud Shift, Cremate, Eerie Interlude, Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshares, and Vanishing Verse. Now, we're not going to forget about our sorceries here. We have a lot of good ones as well. We have Council's Judgment, Exercise, and Farewell. Council's Judgment, one of my favorites because that is Will of the Council. 1 white sorcery. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. This card at a minimum gets 1 thing gone, but at a maximum can get up to 4 things gone, which I think is very, very good. Exercise, 1 white sorcery. Exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. Another great cheap removal. And then Farewell, 4 white sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, all graveyard. Some other great exile sorceries, we have Another Round and Merciless Eviction. Now, just talking about some good stuff, I think that these cards don't do anything with exile, but they're really great for this deck in the benefits they provide. So we have Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Inkshield, and Lisa Forgotten Archangel. So Grey Merchant of Asphodel, 3 black creature zombie. When Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, enters, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion of black, and you gain life equal to life lost this way. There is certainly a lot of black pips in this deck among permanents, so this is definitely worthwhile. Inkshield is a great protection piece for 3 white and a black instant to prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn. For each 1 damage rendered this way, create a 2/1 white-black Inkling creature token with flying. And then Lisa Forgotten Archangel, 2 white black legendary creature angel with flying and lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Serving double purpose, giving us back those creatures that die, letting us recast them an additional turn, but also exiling all of our opponent's stuff is very good. The other good stuff cards here is Arcane Signet, Dark Ritual, Decanter of Endless Water, Helpful Hunter, Knight of the White Orchid, Soul Ring, Solemn Simulacrum, Spirited Companion, Sun Titan, Talisman of Hierarchy, and Thought Vessel. Like all my decks, this land base is built out a little bit. You probably could upgrade it some, but there's some ways to search for basics in this deck, so I would leave it as is. You're also going to be able to search for a ton of basics with some of the other cards when they enter, so this is going to be one of those decks you want to have a higher percent of those cards in. But let me know what you think. This is definitely a very powerful deck, and I think you could build this way meaner. I think there's a lot more spells, whether you want to build it all around instants or all around creatures or some of the other effects, but I pulled a little bit of everything to kind of show you how to build it. Now, you could take that and go in any number of directions, and if you do, let me know. Let me know what you add, you cut, you say, oh, this is a terrible card, oh, this is a great card. I would love to hear about it in the comments down below. In addition, if you would please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe, that would mean the world to me, so thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to help me out in another way and really enjoy the videos I make, check out my Patreon. It would be a huge help if you would join, but if you just check it out, that would mean the world to me as well. In today's Scryfall card of the day is Bone Crusher Giant. Not every tale ends in glory. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.